My, how things have changed over the years. When Brad and I were growing up and raising wheat, it would be, well, we've got a couple of options. We can spray 2,4-D would be the cheap one, or we could spray some Bucktril if we really wanted to.
Yeah, and now we have two much better options. There's Husky, and then there's also Wide Match. So today we want to talk about those two products, and then also some new options you have, as well as, I think it's important, Darren, to say why we don't like 2,4-D and what's wrong with Bucktril also.
Let me start by talking about the oldest product that we mentioned, 2,4-D. Now, 2,4-D used to be such a cheap and easy to use option. A lot of farmers just say, well, I'm going to use 2,4-D. I can kill a lot of the broadleaf weeds and it doesn't cost me much money. Those parts are true. The problem with 2,4-D is it does injure the wheat plant a little bit. Now, in corn production, we used to use 2,4-D until we had a safer option. As soon as we had a safer option, almost everyone switched away right away from 2,4-D. Now we've got the same thing going on in wheat. We've got lots safer options than 2,4-D. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about today is we don't really need the 2,4-D anymore. We have good broadleaf control options that aren't going to injure the wheat.
Yeah, and we're not saying that 2,4-D is going to take 10 bushels off your wheat every single time. It's possible occasionally, but usually we just figure 1, 2, 3 bushels, something like that, more than enough to give you some extra dollars to pay for something that's better and safer anyway. Also, we mentioned Bucktril. We're not real big on straight Bucktril. Yeah, it's very safe to the crop, but the problem is it's got a real narrow weed spectrum. So unless you only have lamb's quarters out there and a few large-seeded broadleaves, Bucktril isn't going to cut it.
All right, well, don't totally badmouth Bucktril, Brian, because Bucktril's great in combination with other products. So you look at something like Husky, for example, that you mentioned as being one of the good options. Well, it does have some Bucktril in there, but it also adds an HPPD broadleaf killer. Now, the HPPDs have been widely used in corn, but haven't really been used in crops like wheat until we had Husky. So now we've got this Bucktril HPPD combo that's one of the best products on most of the broadleaf weeds that we're going to fight out there, except for Canada thistle and maybe kochia.
All right, in addition to Husky, there is the new Talinor from Syngenta. That has the new bicyclopyrone HPPD along with Bucktril. So that's a decent option. If you like Husky already, might be worth giving Talinor a try.
Yeah, I was leaving the door open for you, Brian, to talk about Wide Match because I said, well, the weakness of those products may be Canada thistle and kochia. Not that they're terrible, just that they aren't great. Wide Match, on the other hand, is great on those two weeds. The problem with Wide Match is its weed spectrum is fairly narrow, so there aren't this huge portfolio of weeds that it's going to be great on. But when Canada thistle and kochia are probably the two most widely spread weeds across the wheat acres, well, it is a pretty nice broadleaf option.
All right, so usually what we suggest in combination is one of the ALS herbicides, something like Addition, Tank Mix, or Broad Spec, along with the Wide Match. That usually works out pretty well, so you broaden the spectrum a little bit. So basically what we're talking about today is you've got two great choices in wheat that we commonly use, either Husky or Wide Match. You can go Husky by itself, or if you're going to go Wide Match, we'd usually suggest throwing a little something in. I know the temptation is to throw 2,4-D in. We'd encourage you to use an ALS instead.
We talked about products that you should use that are good options. There are also some that we suggest you don't use, like ones that have really long soil residual. But some guys say, well, I like products like Finesse and it fits in my area. Hey, it can really mess up your crop rotation.
So Dow this year, for example, came out with Culex. That's a combination of an ALS herbicide and a Group 4. That'd be in the same family as 2,4-D, the Group 4, 2,4-D and dicamba. So Culex is pretty good on a lot of the winter annual weeds, and hopefully it's going to replace Finesse in some areas of the country.
There are a lot of choices for broadleaf weed control in wheat. Hopefully you've found some that will control our weed of the week. We'll show you which ones will work best coming up next.